I'm Jelelle Awen, and this is day 29 in my 33-day series, and today I have lots of masculine in the room. Raphael and Gabriel are joining me again today. This is actually the first time they've both been here, and we're really going to focus today on the sacred masculine. So this series has been really quite geared toward women, although I think a lot of the videos men can apply to themselves. But this video is a bridge for men into what our intention is to offer more of a soulful heart for men and the sacred masculine. So that's what Gabriel and Raphael will be talking about today, leading a guided meditation to connect with your wounded masculine, and also planning to do a regular video series for men. So I want to say too, for women watching this, I feel like you can apply this to your inner masculine. Whatever they're talking about today definitely can apply to the inner protector, inner punisher, any other parts that have a masculine frequency to them. Even the inner mother can have a masculine frequency. So as you're taking in what they're saying as a woman, you can take it in from that point of view. And also for if you have a mate that you feel like you might like to bridge this work to, this could be a really interesting thing to think about for your mate too. So I will hand it over to you two to go wherever you'd like to about exploring this idea, this sense of healing the sacred masculine. What does that mean, Raphael?
Thank you.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Well, it's a big subject, and we want to, as Jelelle mentioned, just introduce it today and touch on its aspects, and then set an intention to explore it more deeply in an ongoing video series. But to springboard from where the series was yesterday as you led the women, the first thing that you led them in was to feel the healing of the yoni as more than, as part of, and yet more than the female genitalia. And to feel that from the masculine point of view is to feel the lingam is different from the yoni. The lingam stands erect. It's like a sword in some ways. It can penetrate. It can also wound. And we're talking today about the wounded masculine and how that plays out. But in feeling our masculinity and our gender and our physical body, here we've arrived at manhood, we have a lingam, but the rest of ourselves, emotionally and spiritually, is trying to catch up with this reality. And so this brings in the whole theme of initiation and validation. So we're saying that all of us as men are lacking in initiation and validation, even though physically we've arrived at manhood. And that journey I can feel a hunger for in the collective masculine. In SoulFullHeart, we get to feel the parts of ourselves that you've been hearing about in this series that Jelelle's led, and will include these parts today, and their journey in this challenge around initiation and validation.
Yeah, I think, for me, coming into a work like this, there can be, as a man, a bit of a struggle somewhat, because it's a feminine offering. And one of the things I was feeling for myself personally was, how does a man absorb this information that Jelelle's been talking about over the past 29 days? I've been in SoulFullHeart for over 6 years. I get the parts work. I understand where all those come from, so I can interpret it for myself as a man inside of my own healing process. But if there's a man that's coming in and just watching these videos, it's sort of like, how do I relate to this? I don't know how to do that. So both Raphael and I felt it was important for both of us as men doing this work, this process, to come in the video and in the screen to admit the transmission of two men embodying this work. And then to feel all these parts of us that are in that wounded state. We all have the protector inner teenager, inner child, the inner mother, inner father, all these places that Jelelle has gone. But how do we ingest that? How do I digest all that as men? And it's so different the way we've experienced it in our lives, because as the lingam is an outward projection, it's something that's outbound, it's activating. So our wound has been sort of this outbound wound, and I think the feminine has more had an inbound wound. So then what does that seem like? How does that parcel itself out? What were the experiences that we had in this life and in past lives that create this, what I called this morning, like a reaction to power? Our lingam is just this kind of a symbol of power, and how have we related to it? How have we expressed power? How have we suppressed power within ourselves, with people in our lives, with the feminine, over the feminine? So I think that's kind of the journey we want to take as men in this exploration. So that's kind of like where I came from it today.
Yeah. I think we'll have to link this video to Gabriel's blog post from today.
Sure.
Gabriel, as you're mentioning the Soulful Heart offering being a sacred feminine offering and the challenge for men, currently we are weighted much heavier in the women that are a part of Soulful Heart than we are with men. And that might be a ratio that is part of the ongoing reality. Men are a little slower to respond, and I think I'd just like to say this about what you highlighted. We're attempting to bridge to men a sacred feminine offering, and if it can live in you as if all that you feel is like, this is just too weird and too strange, I just don't get it, if that's your truth, then you're probably in the wrong place. But if you can feel as, and this is a subtle but such a big difference, is a part of me just doesn't get this. That's differentiation, that's initiation, that's validation, that's you showing up for a part of you. But there would need to be a you there that says, this is for me, and I will bridge it to the parts of me who are aching for this. And if that's your reality, now you're coming into deep sensitivity and power to feel, to show up for this part of you and being vulnerable with their reality. So when I feel the depths of what Jelelle more natively and naturally lives, how this healing process lives in her, and I compare it to how it lives in me in a general way, I do feel differences. And at times I can feel a part that's in a reaction to that, of course. So I just wanted to share that difference.
Right.
That today is an attempt to bridge to the sacred feminine in all of us.
Right. And I think that goes into what you just talked about, this dance between the sensitivity and the power. So how do those two reconcile inside of the heart of a man? Because we're in this sort of almost in a conflictual place inside of ourselves around feeling our masculinity and also embracing our femininity as men, because we've just so much suppressed that inside of ourselves. But I think what's now happening is that our men that are feeling this, and this comes out in their depression, in the anxiety, a lot of in addictions to alcohol, pornography, anything that is really unhealthy, quote unhealthy to us. And we've talked to men about these in several circumstances, about all these things that are just feeling really heavy, and they know that there's something that wants to birth and outside of themselves. Their feeling of powerlessness, and I think this powerlessness is also coupled with this extensive feeling of sensitivity. So how do I bridge those two, and how do I connect them? How do I do that?
What keeps coming to me is inadequacy, which is what so many men struggle with. And is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think so.
That sensitivity and balancing it with power,
right?
Or not feeling powerful,
right? Yep. Yes. I mean, I can say that for sure for myself, a sense of inadequacy, and not feeling like I was really in a state of creating a world for myself, of myself, that I was giving away power a lot in my life. I could feel myself doing it and started to become more conscious of it. like all my depression. And once I went into it, I can feel how much I was giving away power, how much I was caretaking other people from this position. And then I'm then giving it, and not really owning what my own power was. So then on the other side of that, underneath that is rage. A part of me, it's like, God damn it, why you keep doing that? What is it wrong? This roar, and it's like fire blazing, and then that's the flip side of that. There's a polar side of that that needs to be felt. So then what lies in between both of those? I feel lies the sacred masculine, but in order to give birth to that is the healing of what we call the wounded masculine, and not the lesser masculine. I think somehow when we hear the term wounded, somehow some part of us feel it as being the lesser, but we just want to feel it as the more sensitive aspects of ourselves that want healing.
As we feel, just to jump back for a moment to the Lingam and its desire to feel validated, initiated, and powerful, and the way we've mishandled or misused the Lingam is personified in the sword, and how the sword can be used for something healthy or something wound-based, and how the Lingam is like a beacon generator that draws to us our next places in life, our karmic ties. I really feel the karmic aspects of cause and effect being linked to the Lingam. And I know Jelelle did a day for connecting with the yoni, and to really connect with the Lingam would be to write a letter to it, to personify it as separate from you, and to offer it a voice of its own.
You know what I'm getting with the yoni journaling? It's like the yoni talks about how each partner felt inside, because obviously there's a penetration. Maybe for the Lingam, it's like how did the Lingam, how it felt received by the partner. Did it feel adequate? Because I think that's the rub right there. And how open-hearted did you feel while you were engaging with that partner? Something like that.
It's very interesting in our society, the two problems in sexuality with the plumbing or the mechanics of the physical body is premature ejaculation, or unable to obtain an erection. And so all the drug offerings for those two problems, both of those simply point to the uninitiated and invalidated man who either has to get in and get out, or is afraid to go in. And so these are not physical problems. These are something that goes right to the heart of who we are, and the pharmaceutical companies are preying on it. So when we can really connect with these aspects of ourselves, in the parts of ourselves that hold it, and then how it lives in a physiological reality in our body, that is a pathway to some really deep and profound change that I've certainly experienced. I know Gabriel has. I know we have a forming circle of drawing men into a round-tabled experience of openness and honesty and vulnerability.
I want to say too, I know there's women watching this going, wow, these men, the way they're talking, the way they feel, what they've taken on, maybe even a hopelessness in women, that will men really take this on? And especially if you're in a relationship right now where that feels like a pretty unlikely possibility for you. So I think this is a good thing to let in, that both of these men have done a lot of inner work, and they've really embraced these parts I've been talking about. Their teenager, their punisher, their protector, their inner mother, their inner father. It's that work that both of them have done that have opened their hearts like this, that have opened their sexuality in a heartful way, have allowed both of you to speak with confidence, but an open heart, not overpowering. So it is possible.
And it's not that the man that you are with or the men that you know are not interested in validation or initiation. Actually, everything about them is in pursuit of validation and initiation. It's the way in which the method, the path they're going to embrace to pursue that. And offering the SoulFullHeart picture, I think, is one more is an offering that they haven't seen yet. And if they're ready for it, it feels like there's no absence. My point is that there's no absence of hunger and desire to be initiated and validated.
For men, it's often, I think, the suffering, though. The suffering leads them to look for something. Or the addictions that they don't know how to reconcile, and they're not sure why they keep... Or financial problems, not able to generate and provide, which is really hard for men when they can't do that. Adequacy.
Power.
And the men have so much power going on inside of them. It's just going in polarized directions, and it's not reconciled power. And so then it manifests as inadequacy. But there's no lack of power in any man.
And in the other piece I just want to have you guys talk about for a minute before the meditation is the MetaSoul. What's going on there related to what we've been talking about? These other timelines.
Well, I think you alluded to that, Raphael, when you talked about the karma. I think when it comes to the wielding of this power, we can go back into the MetaSoul to feel where in our soul history, our soul story, I should say, that this power has been abused, where it was power over something. That's where it comes up. When I hear the MetaSoul, that's what I feel. It comes up to me. Is how is that power used over, and how is it abused toward other people? And then there's the tipping point where then the power was abused. Then all of a sudden there's a recognition of like, oh my God, I just did major harm to a whole swarm of people, of feminine, of animals, of Gaia, all these things, and I'm now absorbing into my being, and now I feel like absolute crap because of it. I have guilt that comes into my system, into my being, and now I'm trying to like deal with the guilt and shame of the use of power. So now it's going into the MetaSoul to find those aspects of us that are living these timelines of abuse of power, but also suppression of power through guilt and shame. So now we're either like overdoing it or we're underdoing it, and there's nothing in there that's healed. We're just kind of like pinging between these two poles.
So we're saying then, as a man, you can have these influences coming from your other timelines, from other aspects in your MetaSoul that are influencing how you're living your life today. You may be a very unassertive man, and that may be in relationship to a timeline where there's this guilt and shame of over assertion, and it's in reaction to that. What we're offering today is a way to feel that, not just to live under it in a generalized fog or cloud or some psychological assessment of you need a little more assertiveness. Those kind of prescriptions really fall short of feeling these other timelines and how these timelines are relatable. They can be made palpably real and feelable, and that's all they're asking for, is to be felt. That's the tipping point, the movement point, is coming into our hearts, coming into our power. The masculine journey, if we could say anything about it in one sentence, it's about a willingness to feel. And to come into a different place of a willingness to feel is where the initiation occurs. All the stages of initiation and validation are all happening around a place of deep feeling. That's why we are vulnerabilized to come to the feminine side of feeling, to validate our masculine.
Well, this is the tip of the iceberg, you can tell. I look forward to taking in your guys' series as you go. And I think we'll go into the guided meditation now and see where it takes us.
Great.
My masculine is looking forward to it.
Great.
I think just to frame it is that we're wanting to really meet these wounded aspects or aspect of yourself that's feeling this sense of powerlessness. And so this is what I kind of feel I want to just preface before we went in, because that's where this is the healing that we're looking to bring into the space. All right. I think in a moment we'll just take a couple of deep breaths and feel that masculine energy in the space in this moment. It's got a fire to it and pulsating. And I just want to bring in a little bit of a stillness into this moment so that we can enter our heart. And as you're breathing, just to feel your consciousness tapping into that breath so that you can go inward into your own heart and imagination. Sometimes I like to picture a blank, just white room, no furnishings, wall-to-wall white. So you approach this door and you reach out and open it towards you. And on the other side of this door, you will see a geography, an environment. It could be a wooded forest. It could be an ocean shore. But what we want to go to is we want to go visit this castle that Jelelle has been continuing to bring into our meditations, which represents your personal center, your place of power, king. And we're going to go ahead and walk up towards your castle. And right before we enter the castle, we're going to be met by your inner protector. This is a very important aspect of you to bring along in every meditation so that he feels that he's a part of all of this exploration. And your inner protector may have something to tell you in this moment. So just take a second to see if he has anything that he wants to tell you before we enter your castle. And as you take that in, both of you go ahead and cross the bridge and enter the entrance of your castle. And in the center courtyard of your castle, you will notice a round table fit for a king, like Arthur and his knights.
And as you approach this table with your invitation in hand to participate in this round table meeting, feel as you approach any part of you and what they are feeling right now. There's also the inner teenager and its reaction to being in this space. There's men seated around this round table already. Very interesting looking men, different looking men, different feeling men, here for a sacred purpose. So you could have feeling reactions of maybe wanting to turn around and not participate. Feel what part of you might be feeling that. Or maybe on the other end of the spectrum, a very eager desire to be a part of whatever is going to happen here today. Feel what part of you might be holding those desires. I also need to mention the inner father aspect of ourselves. templated by our birth father, as well as inner mother, templated by our birth mother. Just let any one of these feeling reactions to the space arise to be felt from the point of view of one of these parts. And also very important, your inner child and its reaction to being here. Give yourself space to slowly approach the table, knowing that a space has been reserved for you. As you approach, notice whatever first impressions that you receive from glancing at the setting, at the round table, at the men that are already seated, at the spaces that are left for you to choose to sit in or not, at the other men who are approaching alongside of you and in the distance. What feeling reactions occur as you notice all that you can notice and take in and feel? As you take a seat, feel why you chose that seat. Notice the energy here, the feeling tones that are emanating from this circle as more and more men take their seat as you just have. Feeling tones of initiation and validation through the willingness to feel, vulnerability and power happening in the same space. Feel the desires that are awoken in you as you sit here. Feel whatever messages come to you from any one or more of these parts that we've mentioned. See if you can feel what you are feeling as coming from a part of you, and not simply just as your experience, but rather the experience of a part of you.
As we further in our exploration of this wounded masculine within the sacred masculine, we will continue to reconnect with this part of you that so much is desiring to feel this validation and initiation. And in this moment, just take a look around this round table of yours and just take in and notice all the different layers and textures of what make you, you. We all look at each other and notice each other's presence, and that we'll be coming back again to meet and to get to know each other on a much deeper level. And you say goodbye to these aspects of you. You thank your protector for bringing you and opening the doors of this castle. And you exit with the intention of continuing this journey and quest to get to feel all aspects of yourself with heart and compassion and love. And now you can open your eyes.
I was feeling too, there was Divine Father was there. He was kind of shifting forms into whatever was needed. So you may have seen him too. And Gabriel and I did a meditation to meet the faces of Divine Father. So we might want to take that in to, because it's really the Divine Father that provides this initiation and this validation that we've been talking about. So supports your 4D self, your awakening self, to hold all of these parts. So you need to be held by something bigger so that you can hold them. So thank you both. That was masculine yumminess today. I hope you enjoyed that. And for the men watching, I hope this opens out a new pathway for you, new possibilities beyond even what we have said and called masculine, and into the new, and into the sacredness of it.
Right. And we look forward to your participation in the coming video series that Raphael and I will have.
Big time. Join your energy with our forming sacred round table to match the one that's living inside of you.
Thank you for joining us today, and I will see you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye-bye.